Well, hey there, kids, and welcome to a very special installment of Uncle Ben's Boombox. Here with your main man, Uncle Ben. Those of you guys who watch my channel regularly know that this is typically a segment that I do over on my FAQ series, FAQ, to let you guys know what it is that I've been listening to and stuff lately. But I've had a whole lot of demand from you guys to do a track-by-track review of the new Ghost record, Prequelle, so I figured I would give in to your demands and do just that. So how about you go grab yourself a cold beer or something else refreshing, and let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, first of all, as a little bit of backstory, I freaking love Ghost. I got into them right whenever Opus Panos came out, and I saw them on that tour with Opeth and Mastodon and all that stuff, and I have been super hooked on that band ever since. And I was really excited for this record because, for one, the cover art is like the sickest cover art that they've ever had, and also, too, like 2 weeks ago, my wife and I went and saw them in Asheville, North Carolina at the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium, where I saw several of you guys. Thanks for saying hi. And I'll tell you guys what, regardless of how you feel about the new album, whether you love it or you don't, you totally gotta go see them. That's the most fun I've had at a concert in years. It was awesome. The band is sicker than they've ever been. They've also kind of expanded the lineup so that they have like one Nameless Ghoul back there on one of the drum risers that plays kind of auxiliary guitar and does all of the backup vocals, which is sick. Before they used to use, tracks for all the backup harmonies and stuff, but now they're doing all of that stuff live, which I think is fantastic. So especially after that show, I was super hyped to hear the new album. Now before I start talking about the new record, I think it's important to give you all a little perspective about how I feel about the old records, because Ghost is one of those bands where every album you're getting something different. So I think it's important to take that into account when you're looking at my perspective on what I like and what I don't like from the band. So the first record, Opus Panos, to me is a 10 out of 10. I love that album. Always have, always will. I don't think they've ever really come close to it. I hate to be that guy, who's like, the old stuff was the best, but it really was. The big, doomy, evil-sounding riffs, the way that everything was so superly, heavily satanic themed, and even the kind of like vintage-sounding, crappy production on it, I love. It just reminded me of like music that should be playing at the end of like The Omen or The House of the Devil or some other favorite horror flick. So to me, Opus is a 10 out of 10. Now going from that to Infestessimum, I really liked that record a lot. At first I was kind of disappointed because it was a lot more keyboard heavy than Opus was. There's still some big ass riffs on it, but it was a little more vocal and keyboard driven. I got a cool kind of sleazy Alice Cooper vibe off of it after a while that I learned to enjoy a lot. So initially I didn't love it because it wasn't what I was expecting, but then later on it really grew on me a lot. So I would put Infestessimum at about like a 6.5. Now moving on from there to Meliora, I was really stoked about that one because the previews and again the artwork and stuff were all awesome. And I think most people can agree it's a phenomenal album. I love it. It's got some big old riffs. It's got some really catchy stuff. And I think it's also where the band really started flaunting its kind of popish, influences on its sleeve a little bit harder with songs like He Is and stuff like that. It sounds like a Moody Blues song or something. I love that record. The production is phenomenal on it too. I wasn't nuts about the Infestessimum production, but I think the Meliora production is phenomenal. So I love that album. That one's probably an 8 out of 10 for me. So with that in mind, let me start with a track-by-track breakdown of every tune on Prequelle. So the record starts off with Ashes, which isn't a full-fledged tune, but just an intro to the album. It's really short. They played this as some intro music whenever we saw them live a couple weeks ago too, so I was like, oh yeah, I recognize this. I remember hearing it. It's a little bit cliche to me, honestly. I'm not nuts about it. They've done other cool intro stuff before, like on Opus and on Infestessimum. But to me, this is just very cliche, Spooky children singing children's songs, like Ring Around the Roses. It's just one of those things that I've seen done to death in every horror movie and every horror soundtrack and stuff around. So to me, this was a little bit cheesy. I guess it kind of sets the tone because I guess a lot of the record is kind of about the Black Plague and stuff like that. So it sets the tone a little bit, but it still just kind of rubbed me as like the wrong side of corny, Now, one thing about it that I did think was really cool though is at the end of Ashes leading into the next track, it starts playing the melody from Spook Sonat, or however it was pronounced. There's that little transition track on Meliora, the little solo harp song. Really cool, really spooky. And I didn't even realize it for the longest time until I went back to Meliora and I was like, why is that so familiar in my head now? And it comes back later in the next tune too. So even though I don't really like Ashes very much because it's kind of corny, I really dig that they dug back into their back catalog to bring back a really cool melody, you know, really cool theme to kind of set the tone for the album. And that spooky indie theme goes right into Rats, which is the first single off the album, which I think is a pretty badass song. It's got a really great guitar riff in there, extremely catchy chorus. Kind of reminds me of something off of Infestessimum, really. Apparently our new vocalist rolls his R's all the time. That's kind of a new thing for that character, I guess. That's pretty cool. Great guitar solo. You can learn how to play it here on my YouTube channel if you search for it. Really dig this tune. And again, at the very end of it, they go back to the Spook Sonat riff again, only this time on guitar, which is pretty awesome. It makes a really bitchin' guitar riff. So as soon as it hit that outro, I was like, oh yeah. And it kind of got me hoping there would be more big ass riffs on this record. So the next song on the record is Faith, which I'd already heard before because they played it at the concert a couple weeks ago. But the cool thing is even though I heard that song once live, I recognized it and remembered it instantly after hearing the first like 4 or 5 notes on the record. So that kind of tells you something about how much of an impression that tune makes. It's really, really, really good. It might be the best song on the album. I don't know, more on that later. But it's got a really killer guitar riff. Chorus is soaring, great guitar solo. The solos have gotten better and better, I think, on every Ghost album. They've gotten more like technical and well executed and stuff, so that's always cool to hear. Really dig this one. It also features the first really heavy appearance of my favorite character on the record, which is that jammin' tambourine. This is a tambourine heavy album, and it's a lot better for it. So yeah, Faith is awesome. And again, it's like after Rats and after Faith, I was like, yes, big ass rock record. This is great. So I was really excited going into the rest of the album. Next tune on the record is See the Light, which starts off all subdued and then builds to a really big chorus later on. I really dig this tune. I think it's one of the better, ballad, anthemic kind of songs that they've done. And it really kills me to see, like, a lot of Ghost fans are, like, kind of giving him shit about doing these ballads and stuff. Like, this is the first time they've ever done that. Like, have you ever listened to He Is off of Meliora? That sounded, like I said earlier, like a Moody Blues song or something like that. This isn't too far off from that. Kind of reminds me of whenever people started giving Opeth all kinds of hell whenever they put out Heritage. And it's like, they did Damnation several years earlier. Did you not listen to that? It's the same kind of stuff. So anyway, I think people giving crap over the ballads is a little ridiculous. Again, more on that later as we go on. They might have gone a little too far later on in the record. But I dig this song. I really love the bridge part with that synth melody. Those old school, 70s, 80s sounding synths. I really dig that. Kind of reminds me of like Subdivisions by Rush, some of that earlier 80s Rush stuff that had those cool, funky synth tones. I like that. It's also got some big ass tambourine going on behind it, which is cool. I guess the only thing about this tune that I don't really like very much is like lyrically, it doesn't really seem to be anything about, Satan or the occult or devilry or anything like that. It seems to be very overtly about Tobias Forge's real life struggle with his old bandmates that want to sue him and stuff like this, and how, their hate for him is only making him stronger and stuff like that. I mean, it's cool, it's cool to base songs on real life topics and stuff, but to me, Ghost is such a fantasy band. It's an escape from reality. You know what I mean? These guys don't actually worship the devil and stuff, but it's fun to dress up and make Halloween every day and have these songs and these imageries and stuff that are completely pretend and made up. It's really fun. It's part of what makes the band charming to me. So to me, having lyrics like this that aren't really about any of that stuff and just seem to be about real life things going on, I don't know. I didn't really dig that. Next up on the album is the instrumental tune Miasma? Miasma? I don't know. I was homeschooled. What do I know? I love this song. It's freaking awesome. It's the best instrumental that I think that they've ever done. And again, they played this live whenever I saw them, and as soon as it started, I was like, yeah, this is that kick-ass instrumental that they played. So it tells you something that, again, even without lyrics, I remember it from the first time that I heard it. Part of the reason I like this so much is it reminds me very much of something that Goblin would do. Those of you guys who are horror movie fans, for one, should listen to my weekly horror movie review podcast, Dead and Lovely, available on iTunes and SoundCloud. But if you're a horror movie fan, you should definitely know the name of Goblin. Goblin is a band that did the soundtrack to a lot of Italian horror flicks, especially like the Dario Argento stuff through the 70s and 80s. Did the soundtrack for Phenomena, Suspiria, all kinds of great stuff, as well as like Romero flicks, like he did Dawn of the Dead soundtrack. And this, to me, especially the intro of this, really reminds me of Dawn of the Dead a lot. It's really cool. I'm sure that those guys must be classic horror movie fans and decided to incorporate some of this stuff into the music, because it's something I felt about the band from day one, is that a lot of it had kind of a Goblin vibe. Really killer soaring guitar harmonies, Really prominent bass. The bass tone on this is killer. Those great late 70s, early 80s synth tones that I like so much. Some big ass tambourine. Great guitar solo in this one. I gotta learn the solo in this. And the biggest shock of it all, a huge saxophone solo. That came out of nowhere. And they did it live too. And when they did it live, I was like, what is even happening right now? So hopefully you've already heard it, because I don't want to spoil that for you, because it's so fun whenever you hear it for the first time. And it's awesome too. It's not just like, it's cool because I wasn't expecting a sax solo here. It's cool because it's really cool. And then the way the saxophone harmonizes with the guitar and stuff too is dope. So yeah, this song is one of the highlights of the record for me. Really dig this tune. Next up we have Dance Macabre, which was the second single released from the record. So I'd heard that one too. It's a kick-ass song. It's really, really, really fun. It's not heavy at all. It's, again, nothing like Opus, if that's kind of your frame of reference for the band. It really just sounds like ABBA with electric guitars. Like, the first time that I heard that song, I was like, this is straight up an ABBA song. Like, you could go out and do a disco dance to this album, no problem. Lyrics, not super Satan-y. One thing that one of my buddies, Brent, pointed out to me, I was talking with him and I was like, man, I think it's kind of corny that in the chorus he says, I want to be with you. And he's like, no, it's I want to bewitch you. Like, you're bewitched, you know what I mean? So to me, that was kind of one of those like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty subtle and kind of clever in a way. But still, most of the song, not very Satan-y. But it is really good. If you like this song, I strongly recommend you check out the collected works of ABBA, because ABBA's awesome. Good music is good music. It doesn't matter who's making it, so I enjoy it all the same. You could play this song for your mom next time you're in the car, and she would probably think it was pretty rad. Tell her I said hi, by the way. Next song on the record is Pro Memoria, which starts off all subdued and then builds up to a big epic chorus. Did I already say that earlier? I can't lie, I don't really like this song very much. There's no big riffs in it. The melodies are okay. The outro is nice, whenever it's just kind of the vocalization over that chord progression. That's pretty cool. But man, I just can't get over how cheesy that chorus is. The don't you forget about dying, don't you forget about your friend death. Kind of reminds me of something out of like a musical, you know? And to me, that's just not exactly very cool. Maybe if this song was arranged differently, I'd dig it more. Like, instead of it being like, you know, clean piano at the front of it, maybe if it was some of that tacky 70s, 80s synth stuff, maybe that would have made it a little bit cooler. But as it is, this kind of sounds like it could have been written by like a Christian praise and worship band. So that's definitely not cool by me. So the next song on the record is a rocker called Witch Image, which it seems like a lot of people are really enjoying, but myself, it just doesn't really do much for me. I think the riff is kind of cliche and forgettable. Chorus isn't really all that great. The lyrics are kind of like, I don't know, just sort of average rock song lyrics. And then when it got to the chorus, it's like they remembered, oh yeah, we're supposed to be like kind of an evil satanic band, so say something about a corpse rotting in the ground. Doesn't do much for me, honestly. Kind of forgettable. It kind of reminds me of a song that was either maybe written in the studio to flesh the album out, or maybe a song that was kind of like discarded from the Meliora sessions as not being good enough to be on Meliora. Doesn't really do much for me. Again, there's some cool instrumentation stuff in it, but overall, one of those I will perpetually skip on the album. Next tune on the record is an instrumental called Helvetesfonster, which is an instrumental that reminds me of Goblin. Have I said this already? I don't know. I dig it though. I think that intro is really memorable and extremely dark sounding. Probably the darkest sounding thing on the record is that intro to this tune with the kind of flute and piano. Really, really, really cool. Again, extremely Goblin-esque to me. I like this song a lot. I think it's got some real ambiance to it. The melodies are great. Apparently they got Michael Ockerfeldt from Opeth playing some of those kind of folksy acoustic parts later on in the song. One of my YouTube fans pointed that out to me. I really do dig this tune. I see a lot of people probably thinking that maybe it's boring or just eating up space, because it never really gets, you know, big and rockin' and intense, and it's an instrumental, so your, you know, casual rock fan is instantly gonna kind of discredit it anyway because it doesn't have vocals on it. But I think it's dope, so I really enjoy this tune a lot. Probably the most like moody, atmospheric, and dark song on the record. It's also worth mentioning too that about a minute and a half into the song, they play a melody that is very reminiscent of that cheesy "Don't You Forget About Dying" chorus from Pro Memoria earlier on the record, which is kind of continuing that theme that I was talking about earlier, where they played the Spook Sonat melody from the other album and then put it in 2 songs on here. It kind of goes through them digging back through their own melodic catalog and exploring those themes some more, which is something that I think is really cool. That's something that Steve Vai has done his whole career, and it's something that he picked up from Frank Zappa and his concepts of conceptual continuity, which is, you know, kind of so to say that, well, you wrote the damn melody, explore it more, use it more, you know? Imagine telling an author, you can only write 1 book about this character, and that's all you ever get. You've got to do all your exploring of this one character in this one book. I kind of feel like as musicians, we're kind of enforced to do that with our riffs and melodies. Like, you can only use it in 1 song and that's it, which I think is bullshit. I think it's really cool to see artists explore their own musical choices in other tunes. So I did appreciate them bringing that into this tune. Even though I don't really like Pro Memoria, that's still a really nice melody, and it was cool to hear him explore it some more in this tune. And then we get to the album's closer, Life Eternal, which starts off really subtle and then builds up to a big epic chorus. I swear I've said that like 3 damn times in this video. I'll be real, I really don't like this song either. And again, it's not that I don't like ballads. Again, He Is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That song is borderline praise and worship music, but it's just so good and so infectious that you can't help but love it. It's not that I don't like it because it doesn't have a big, heavy, evil guitar riff or anything like that in it. I just think Life Eternal is just really plain and boring, frankly. Don't really like it very much. Just doesn't really have enough of anything that I like from the band. Again, the imagery, the evil stuff, the occult things that they've always tied into the lyrics, pretty much absent in here. No great mean sounding guitar riffs, no weird harmony. You know, that's something that I really dug about some of the earlier Ghost stuff, is that the kind of harmony that they chose to use in their chord progressions and riffs and even vocal harmonies was always just slightly off and twisted and weird. And to me, this is just a very color by numbers, stay in key, do the right thing kind of song. Doesn't really do anything for me. Again, another one that I'll always skip every time I listen to the album. So I know for a lot of this review, I've seemed like I'm coming down kind of hard on the album, but it's only because I expect so much of this band, because I love them so much. And frankly, I still love this album. It still has a lot of songs that I'll listen to over and over and over and again, like the 2 instrumentals and Rats and Faith. And I'll look at it this way too, right? There's 10 songs on the album. One of them is an intro, so there's basically 9 songs on the album, right? Of those 9 songs, 2 of them are instrumentals. Like I said, I love instrumentals just as much as vocal tunes, but I know a lot of your average, you know, rock listeners and stuff don't really like instrumentals that much because they don't have singing and stuff in them. So to your average listener, the record has, you know, 7 songs on it. Of those 7 songs, 3 of them are ballads. See the Light, Pro Memoria, Life Eternal. Like, those are all 3 start off quiet, get big in the chorus, hold your lighter in the air kind of songs. And again, there's nothing wrong with a ballad or an anthem, but I kind of feel like every band has had kind of the sense to know, you know, put Nothing Else Matters on the album once. Put He Is on the album once. And that's all there is to it. I kind of feel like, especially on what is essentially a 9-song album, having a third of it taken up by ballad anthem type songs, that is just a little bit too much. So, I don't know. I guess overall, I just wish there was less damn ballads on the thing. You know, especially when you're dealing with such a small plot of real estate for the record. So overall, I do love the album. I know it seems like I've been very critical of it and stuff, but it is better than 90% of all new music that I hear. So I love the record. I'll continue listening to it for a long time, especially the instrumental tunes like Miasma and, you know, Faith is a great tune, See the Light. I'll listen to those forever, and those are great additions to Ghost's library of tunes. But overall, I just wish that, yeah, again, especially on such a short album, they wouldn't have clogged it up with so many anthemic ballads and also played up the satanic evil stuff a little bit more. That's just something I love about the band. I can't help it. So I wish I would have played that stuff up a little bit more and given me some big, mean, evil riffs. But, you know, one thing that nobody can argue is that these guys can write a damn song that will get stuck in your head for years to come. So I'll always give them credit for that, even if I don't like the material that much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Like I said, this is the first Uncle Ben's Boombox standalone episode. If you guys would like more of these, just full in-depth track-by-track reviews of records, be sure to let me know because it's a lot of fun doing these. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you think I should do these on the regular. Also in the comments below, let me know what you think about this album. I'm really interested to gather your all's opinions on it and see if I'm alone in thinking that this is just drenched in balladry and lacking in devilry. So be sure to leave me some comments below and let me know what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to like this and subscribe to my channel. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars or over on my Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. Thanks so much for tuning in. Cheers, you guys.